Welcome. Appreciate everybody for coming in. Like, follow, share, and subscribe to your boy. All right, right now I'm about to have a guest on. I have to go ahead and share our stream out, and then we will be on our way. Mm. Go ahead and guess it on in. On our way. Just getting while we wait, I'll go ahead and I'll play a segment from one of my boys. I'll play some movies. Heaven on earth. Man, it's here. Right? Appreciate all follow, share, and subscribe. No handouts. I'm making it. What? That was a short, very short and brief. Tune in to my boy. I sent the link. Go ahead. I'm man. Appreciate you for coming on. Before I add you on, I'm about to go ahead and have a shout out to my sponsors, and then we'll get right on into this. All right. First sponsor is like, follow, share, and subscribe, everybody. First sponsor is, and this comes from your boy me, also with a 15% off discount code in the checkout box. Um, discount code Vision. Discount code Vision. 15% off all of your CMOS products and endeavors. And then I have number two. On to number two. Appreciate everybody for joining, like, follow, share, and subscribe. On to number two, okay, is Romantic Gold Mints. Romantic Gold Mints. Also, all natural. Yeah, check them out. I've got a promo code on this yet, but it will be coming soon. Right. All right, I'm back. Sure. and kick myself out. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, let's get it. And welcome.
Hey, you see me? Am I good?
Sir, we good. We good to go.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. My data didn't want to work, so I had to hop off and get on the internet.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah,
I kick myself off anyway.
right. What's up?
Hey, man, a lot going on. I'm over here in DC area. So it's a lot. It's a
Ducking.
lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of movement. It's a lot of movement. It's a lot of things that people are not seeing, and it's right in front of their eyes.
Oh my God. I mean, that's been the nature of our. Because last time we talked, and just kind of a lot of the people I've talked to on the right, that's been kind of that's been the frustration of the whole situation, right? Like it's right in front of you. Um, I was talking to Americano the other day, and just pointing out the fact that like the stuff going on at the border, a lot of that to me is the heightened example of the whole their whole game, right? Like everything they say that they weren't, right? They're allowing these kids to be trafficked right before our eyes. They're allowing sick people to come into the country wide open right before our eyes. They're releasing prisoners and locking up business owners right before our eyes. We're seeing they're taxing people like crazy right before. They're cutting jobs right before our eyes. Like literally everything that we were already seeing, they're just not even hiding it,
Not even
and it's
hiding.
not even going subtle. So I feel it does get more frustrating because you feel like a lot of the examples today, as opposed to even 6 months ago, are just more in your face. Like, what are you doing? So with that frustration, I think we have to remember, man, that the brainwashing is deep. It's deep stuff, and they've gotten it just like I did, and I'm sure maybe at one point in your life. But you're getting it from everywhere: TV, film, books, music. If you're being attacked like that consistently since before you came out of the womb, and you don't have a good grounding, or something that just kind of to give you perspective in that same way. And let's say you grew up in a house in a neighborhood where they've been getting the same thing fed to them over and over. It's, I
Exactly.
mean, it's so hard. It's like climbing Mount Everest for some people, trying to figure out like, yo, I've built my life off these beliefs and these stories. How does someone come to terms with the fact that most of it has been a lie?
Exactly. I mean that is the American experiment when it comes to the people in power. Now,
Yeah.
our experience is basically I put the American experience for me. Me growing up, I grew up in a situation where I was in the suburbs growing up, but I still had a mom that was never in the suburbs. She was always in the inner city. She done had in my lifetime. She done had at least 10. She done moved at least 10 times. You know what I'm saying? So I've experienced everything on every spectrum. From the goods and the bad. So it took me. It took me try. It's almost like a science experiment as far as my
Mm-hmm.
put everything to the test. Then I started questioning everything. That's how I got into being red pill. It started with really with the two-way situation because me being in law enforcement, uh, things didn't make sense just in general. Just
Yeah.
turn and race baiting and all this stuff, and then the statistics not lining up with cops just mowing down people, and I'm off, and I got to look at my peers, and I'm like, yeah, I'm working with y'all. It's not adding up.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, these crazy situations. You may get one crazy guy in 2 years. In 2 years, as far as employment is concerned. Even then, he's reprimanded or he's dealt with as far as in law enforcement. So, I mean, it's all about perspective.
Well, let me ask you this then, man, because like that's one of the things. There's a couple things that you hear over and over, and I'm a big supporter of. I think law and order is the only way that we expand as a human species, right? Because that way we try to put in check at least the animalistic side, the ego side by a lot of the laws. And one of the things I always hear all the time is like, oh, uh, why don't more cops speak up? Why don't more people in law enforcement speak up about a lot of these things? And I know statistically, what they're selling us and what's really happening are two different worlds.
Right. So it's like speaking up. It's like, what do we do? We can't. It's hard to tell somebody the facts, and then they say, "Well, the facts don't matter." After that, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
it's not. What I say don't matter. It's I'm not gonna win. I can't
So
even
it's like
sell you reality.
so it's like they pretty much want you to speak based off their experience or their point of view on what's going on. If you speak anything different, then they don't want to hear. I mean, and that's the case for us. It's just I know that just as being black men, we can't. There's certain things that we're allowed to say in the group and not to say in order to be considered still black. You know, it's it's almost like it's part of that Marxist game, that Saul Alinsky game, where make it so that you can never win, right? You always have that. You always have. They always have a what is it called, a character, much like a villainous character that can never have any type of redeeming quality, right? So even if your life is different than what it's shown on a day-to-day basis, you still need that character to be the bad guy, which in a book I read is called Therapeutic Alienation, where we have to, and you see this in a lot of different aspects, a lot of communities, like you have to the person can't because it's a man. They can't because they're a white person. They can't because it's they're not gay or they're not trans, and no one can say anything or no one gets it or always bad. It's a crazy world. Ah, there we go. Look at that.
Yeah,
I
pulling
know
up.
that guy.
So.
I know him.
Yeah, I know him too. All right, about to play this, and then you give us our take on where exactly you were coming from at this point.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it.
Okay?
Trying to sell about black people the same thing the media's been selling, that we're poor us, our lives are in danger every day just by living here in this country. They see me as a black man and they automatically go to victimhood or criminal. Hi, my name's Siaka Massaquoi. This is my story. I'm an actor, been here in LA for about 16 years now. My parents are Liberian, so I'm first generation American, and I was born in Rochester, New York. I grew up with my mom and my younger brother. I grew up extremely liberal. I think I grew up in a time when it was progressive before the phrase was popular. It's also told people in the South are super racist and they'll hang you. Be careful. It's also told do not go into rural areas because then no one will find you and then you'll be lynched. Be careful. This is what I was told in the 90s about the other side and about this country. Cops will always act a certain way towards you. Be careful. I took this one class called Black Action Theater. I found that when I started doing the work in that class, it was the only thing that I ever did where I enjoyed the process just as much as the final product. When I got into this class and he had us writing scripts and he had us handing out our scripts and then other people perform it and then you get a script at the moment. And I'm like, well, how quickly can I get into this character? Like I just really found a passion for the process of it. It was an opportunity not only just to tell stories, but to tell stories at a big level, where it's going to reach and touch a lot of different people. That's what it was to me. And it was a chance to all these different fantasies I had in my head about like, being the hero that can fly, or the guy who's saving the princess with a sword, fighting the dragon, all those things that I would read. I'm like, Hollywood offers that. When you're a non-union actor, I felt like, well, once I get into the union, then it's real. My butt off to try to do that in these different kind of hustle ways. And I finally got in. I realized when I was in, it's like, that's only just a taste of what it is. You need to like put in the work, go to classes, all this stuff that I didn't understand. I don't think it was hard because I was Black. I think it was hard because I didn't play these certain characters. It didn't fit like my energy. Hollywood is probably the most racist place that I've ever experienced. Early agents that I would have was, oh, you ever think about being a bad guy? You should hip hop it up more. What am I like slowly losing in my heart every time I go in for these parts, every time I cater to how they want me to be in this, what I find very bigoted approach. You have people like Jordan Peele saying, I'm not interested in telling white stories. I don't know what that means. You have Seth Rogen saying, I'm not going to hire white people anymore. All these people that made their money already. All these people that did in that same system that has been, they're screaming is super racist and super turned off. Now they're doing the exact same thing and stating it. They will say some of the most disgusting things around me. And I know they're only comfortable because I'm a Black guy. I know it. I don't think it's funny that you say, I don't like to hang out with white people and laugh. I don't think that's funny. That's terrible. It's okay you don't hire that guy because he's a tall white guy. It's okay that you do hire that guy because he's a Black guy. That is racist. Plain and simple. That is racist. Why would I want to be a part of that? That's the thing that really started to upset me. Do I see a white man coming towards me and be like, he's racist? And here we go. Because that's the ideology I was raised in. Old white men initially, you're racist. So I saw color, but I saw it from an evil standpoint and from a gross standpoint. And then I find out that wasn't true. That's the only thing that had pushed me away from the left, was actually then going out and finding out for myself, not just trusting the book that was told to me or the TV show that told me how to think. You have these young Black boys and black girls looking for an answer. And you got Oprah telling them, oh yeah, it's white privilege. What country in the 80s would allow a fat Black woman to have a daytime talk show that now she is one of the richest people on the planet? That was here in America. I feel like the narrative Hollywood's trying to sell about Black people is the same thing the media's been selling, that they pour us, our lives are in danger every day just by living here in this country. They see me as a Black man and they automatically go to victimhood or criminal. So that's how they start to control the culture, because then that's all you see is your representation. Then you have social media doubling down on it. Then you have the news doubling down on it. So you give them the entertainment so they can relate from it from an emotional standpoint. Then you do it in social media and news media, where you give them like, look at the real life stuff. It's happening here. We're going to censor out when it happens to anyone else and only show you this thing. So now it connects with that movie you watched, right? Nothing's changed since the civil rights movement. That's not the truth. All my problems were me. They weren't because anyone else out there who didn't look like me was setting me up to fail. There's so much fear in this industry. And if anyone is on the right, that's it, you're done. Doesn't matter if you're Black or white. Doesn't matter if you're a woman. Doesn't matter if you're gay. I have been removed from this and from a couple projects, and I've seen friends be removed from projects. So people keep their mouth shut. For me, the fear was there too, but to keep my mouth shut so I can maybe get a job saying 3 or 4 lines on a co-star, like, it doesn't add up anymore. I would say, if there be a call to action for anyone in Hollywood, anyone who may be watching this, it's ask yourself what really matters in your heart. We have a chance to be different. And if you don't, you're going to have to live with that for the rest of your life. You have a chance today. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's try. And your strength will again give strength to others. There's other people there that you will find. I guarantee it. And the sacrifice isn't as bad as you think.
Very
That guy said some good. That guy was saying some good things, huh?
Yeah, man. Very, very powerful. Yeah, man. So what was your space like? Where were you at when you were going through these processes?
You know, when I did that interview, are you still seeing me? I feel like
yeah.
That's fine. We'll play it out. Well, it's something that I've been experiencing for a long time in Hollywood, if you will, and just especially as I mentioned where I grew up before progressive was cool. In most of these places I've lived that are highly liberal centered, that's what I've always noticed. You know, I've noticed do people cast like this? Why are the only stories about Black people, either a civil rights story, a gangbanger hood story, or a slave story. When it comes down to major productions and putting together projects that star predominantly Black people, and it always something that kept messing with me. And so, in this moment with PragerU, much of the stuff I've been thinking for years. It's just a matter of having a place just to finally say it. So to be in a position where you're in that comfortable space and you can finally let some of those things out clearly, concisely, is not you're not debating on the street or you're trying to debate family, which can get emotional. Be in that place and be surrounded by those who are asking those types of questions. That led me down the road for my responses. Marissa over at PragerU she put this whole thing together, just the whole story of us. But to have these questions out there, and PragerU isn't far removed from just being here in Hollywood. So they work. They know they encounter a lot of people where their friends have to keep their mouth shut. That's not a world that I want to live in. So as I'm sitting in this position now, and like I said, and I think I said in another podcast where I've been saying recently, like, I've been leaning in heavy since we met and we did our conversation, but leaning in heavy to what works and what matters. That's like all these opportunities have been opening up. And so it tells me I need to continue to speak up because there's something good there. It's filling my heart and soul more than any performance I've ever done in my life. And I see that it's helping. I've seen people's DMs to me and messages on the video itself. It's like, if I thought I was starving, it feels like they were starving for a message as well. And I just thank God and totally feel honored and blessed to kind of be a conduit for those ideas to really get out and be heard. If I have to take the arrows and slings and arrows, like, that's fine. I think my life path has built me up for this. So I can handle the criticism. I can handle people talking all that stuff because I've heard it from family members already. So who the hell is some random person online, right? But we have to be of service, and I feel like my experience, this is the service that I can give back.
So do you have you got a specific red pill moment, a transition moment where, or was it just a series of events that made you look at things different?
It was, I would say, so it was like my whole life, just because I also think, because I'm an Aquarius, so we also always think outside the box. So my whole life, there's things that didn't make sense. And I think that's why I drank a lot before, just so I could numb my mind working, right? So I can numb that idea of like really figuring certain things out. What really hit me, and I would say my honest to God, like, I don't trust the left ever again, which is I guess would say my red pill, was Obama's first 6 months. In Obama's, in his first 6 months, and I think maybe we talked about this last time, but in the first 6 months, this guy that was, I mean, you talk about the best presentation I've ever seen in my lifetime for a presidential candidate. It was amazing. And one of the things he kept talking about that I used to buy into was the healthcare for all topic.
Yeah.
And in the first 6 months, he signs a lot of these bullshit executive orders, make a big deal about the pay gap myth. And he didn't, with the House and the Senate, didn't even touch healthcare. And I was watching this. I'm like, you have all the political capital right now. You can do whatever you want, really. And you're not even going to start. And then I knew, I was like, watch, you're going to lose the midterm. They're going to then start working on healthcare, and he's going to blame the Republicans for not getting the deal that he says he's promising the American people. And I watched that happen, and that's exactly how it went down. And I'm like, oh, you're just another politician. And that just removed me from buying into anything they were selling on that side, because then I started breaking down like other aspects of the ideology, the other aspects of the left's kind of thought process. And then you start seeing, well, no, it's not both sides in the same capacity. It's not both sides running these cities. It's not both sides locking up black people to this extent. It's not both sides allowing them to be killed and keeping your mouth shut like in Chicago, but if it's one person like George Floyd in Minneapolis because it's going to benefit what they want, the destruction of the country, then it's all over. So it's not both sides that are doing that in this way. There's not both sides that their communities that have homeless people all over the place. It's not both sides. And then for me this year or 2020 with the riots that were going on, that the news just kept calling peaceful protests. And we've talked to you before about it. Chicago is very important to me in my heart because that's where I grew up. And you saw all those kids dying and not a word, but George Floyd can have 5 funerals.
Yeah, exactly. 5 funerals, golden caskets.
With golden caskets and no social distancing at the time. Yeah. All these, watching these things that, like we said earlier, you would think those who have eyes will just see what's going on in front of them, and they miss that as well. So, Obama was the first major key, and then everything else was like, I just couldn't be silent anymore. And those last few factors were why I just couldn't sit back and watch anymore. I had to say and do something. Like, I don't want the world that they're offering. And if I don't fight today, then I would have definitely done harm to myself trying to keep it inside. And that was an experience. That was what I was doing before until I, got closer to God and got myself better through God's help. That, I was harming myself destructively in ways I didn't understand why. Now I know I have to lean into truth, because if I don't, I will find a way to hurt myself subconsciously a lot of times, So yeah, it's been Obama, but it's been, kind of building throughout this time.
So Obama. All right. So with this cancel culture, how do you feel? How do you feel? One thing I realized. How do you feel about especially going to Cat in the Hat, or going to child cartoons from the 80s and 70s and 60s?
Yeah,
they're affecting my grandmother's perspective on the political party at this point. She never even thought. She just straight up said, "What are we gonna have?" You're eventually gonna have nothing. You're not even gonna have
exactly.
Your statue's gonna be taken down. All your kid books are gonna be taken down. Like, come on. Anyway, all your TV shows from Boomerang are gonna be taken down. You're not gonna have nothing. Your gun smoking, your rodeos, everything is gonna be taken down. Much masculine, family,
Jefferson, all that stuff.
Jefferson, Cosby, everything, Cosby, Professor Bel-Air, anything that represents structure is going to be wiped out. The idea is being melted away out of our country. Not considered normal anymore.
Well, that's, again, what we're watching and witnessing is communist tactics and takeover, Marxism. And people, they've gotten us so scared of our own self and others around us that now the next step was, well, your fear is based on the world around you. Your fear is based on the history of the country you live in. Your fear is based on those histories that if we promise you that when we clean those up, your life will be better. That is the ultimate lie that has permeated throughout the history of humanity, as these totalitarian governments have taken over, right? It's always the promise of something better, because look how terrible your life is today. What people are missing, because I always believe they teach history wrong in school. They teach it like they do mathematics, which is like, at this point, this happened. 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah, to a certain extent, those dates are solid in that way. But history is like how, like, when we talk about 2020, we're going to talk about the riots. I'm going to talk about walking around in my community and seeing shop owners shut down or holding each other, waiting for customers to come in.
We are new history. We are
exactly. But what we can do is, like, just take the history of this time, right? And we go, and I was looking at a thing yesterday, getting frustrated with seeing people walk with masks by themselves outside, and I'm like, we're gonna look up
and masks, like COVID is in the car.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? What's the point then? Stay home, Uber Eats or something, And I was thinking how, because we look back at things like bell bottoms, or like that denim jacket gear from the 70s, or like the certain ways people dressed and moved from back in the day. We're like, haha, look how silly they were, right? 80s style.
Baggy clothes, huh?
Yeah, right. And so I look now, I'm like, there's gonna be a time within the next 5 to 8 years where we're gonna look up and go, man, everyone was wearing masks, huh? And that's a moment I look forward to, because it's like there's gonna be people who, just gonna have to be honest with them, like, man, look at that. People were crazy back in that moment, right? So we have to remember the history so that we don't. It's a reason why they want to take it away, so we don't actually see our progression. We can't pride ourselves in where we actually what we've worked through. When anyone is saying, "Well, yeah," they always talk, "Well, I'm glad you had this experience," but doesn't mean everyone else can or could. And I've heard that over and over. And part of that mentality, that victimhood mentality, I go, I fell for it because I've been in all those places. You want me to be a felon? That's the only thing I didn't get was a felony. I've been in welfare. I've been, kicked out of places and removed from places for being just a crazy person. So it's like, you can't tell me that my history, that now I'm in this place where I feel the most freedom I've ever had in my life. So all the stuff that I went through my history that made me happy or sad, that like, well, you're going to tear it down in my mind so I don't see how powerful I am today.
It's good point that you brought that up. The American dream, your perspective.
American dream for me is the ability to just have people get out of your way, which mainly include the government, because that's the one that this whole thing was set up for, was so that you have limited government. The American dream is alive and well for those who decide to go grab it, because the American dream, the only thing it promises, for the most part, from what I've seen, is the opportunity to dream as big as you want. When they start getting into the White House, the House, and the 2.3 kids on a picket fence, all right, that's someone else's dream within America, but you have that too. But the dream is, we can sit here and instead of, going through and working some government job, we're sitting here doing a podcast because it's a passion of yours, because it means something. So the American dream is complete here. When there's a lot of money to be made, it's just about working to find and delineate it, using your critical thinking to say, this works, this doesn't. Like, those are aspects of humanity that has been ripped away in these schools from us. And we were allowing it. We're doubling down by putting our kids back into these schools that prioritize gender pronouns over mathematics and science, over history and English. So you see that it's set up so that we are mindless drones. The dream is still here, and people are living it. People are living it fully. I mean, I'm living it right now. I've been leaning in, and the things that have been happening in my life just in this last year. And don't get me wrong, I always thank God, and I feel completely blessed and grateful for the life I have had, because it has been extraordinary. I never thought it could be even more, right? And since these last 10 months, with going through being canceled and losing friends, and I mean, hell, my agent and manager dropped me the week before I went to Liberia. And it's fine. I knew it was coming to a certain extent, but the opportunities that opened up to create stuff back here, so as well as Liberia, all these opportunities started opening up. And that was before this PragerU videos dropped. So what opportunities are going to, present itself because of that? So what they did and showed me was, that's not who I need to be working with anyway in this next, version of my life, the next section or level that I move to. Because look at what's going to, I just look at what's happening after they did that. And then that was before this video. And so everything in between, as myself and people I'm working with are creating more and more amazing projects. Like, I didn't need to be with them. Right. Yeah, it's because I had a relationship, but it's like waking up with a girl. Like, yeah, sometimes, even if it hurts because you loved her or whatever, it's sometimes it's like we have to move on.
Yeah, it's like I had a dream that represents how I think life really is. I had a dream about going up a elevator that was 100 stories.
Wow.
You were going up the elevator, you would literally drop off people in your life.
Yes. The train.
So as you got to the top, you ended up by yourself regardless.
But
certain people went up there, certain people got off as you got up the top, and your closest ones that represented you the most were there at the 95th, 96th, and 97th floor before
Yep.
you yourself to take care of everybody else. You had to be you at the end of the day before you were
Yep.
you and somebody, you and mom, you and your village. You know, I mean, it's so true. I mean,
It's
our mother
completely.
is special in our culture. It really is.
Oh yeah. Well,
And
and
we adopt a lot of
putting
things from that.
putting God first for me, right, is what leads the way for everything else. Because if I'm putting God first, then I'm moving through the world, or
Yeah.
trying to move through the world through that space. So, and in that, when I put God first, God wants me to be loved, right? God wants me to have everything that I've ever needed in my life. He wants you to be happy and abundant so that we can do the work that he put us here to do, which is just help each other. And so if I'm not settled in there, I may want to help and I've tried to, but like there's no real satisfaction because I didn't understand what's leading me into those things. I didn't have like the guidance. I was just cleaning up to clean up, and yeah, you feel, but then once you have an understanding behind it, that feels more, you connect more with the purpose of it. It changes so much.
I mean, that reminds me of what Jordan Peterson said. He said he goes to these universities and gives these lectures, but he has a critical idea about how you could restructure your life in the same way you restructure your house and restructure.
Yeah.
It starts. It starts with details and little small things. It comes from the mind palace, and it also comes from the fact that it's a book called As a Man Thinketh, and that book literally starts describing the mind of a man is literally like a garden. It's based on you getting rid of the bad weeds and the good weeds,
Yeah.
and upkeeping it. Your mind, a male mind has to be upkept.
Yep.
You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
best representation is the Garden of Eden, or whatever you want to call it. But it's growing. It's interchangeable. It's like a web. It's locking. It's
Yep.
remembering good things, bad things. It does have selective memory at times, but it's always growing. We forget about it because we'll see people like Dr. Sebi talk about CMOS, and then we don't even realize why we can't sit down on our knees. You know, I mean, like certain things we need to realize we gotta take care of ourselves. You know, like
Exactly.
community that is not talked about is health, and one of the biggest killers. But then we want to slide and take that turn the race, and then forget about us because we playing tennis.
That's the thing that really gets me about just, there's somebody mentioned online on that video actually, like, oh, it doesn't matter, he's not born here, and I was like, what?
Oh
Listen,
God, they said that about Obama.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, but it was a black dude too, and I'm just like, well, you don't understand the law then. And then he goes, well, I do understand that you don't speak for me or people I know. And I'm like,
Thank you.
I was I was speaking for myself. I was speaking from my experience. I wasn't speaking for anyone else. And so we get in our own way, and we're taught to come out and beat up, whether it's physically or verbally, those that then start trying to stand out. It's what there was a experiment they were done on chimpanzees, right? So this experiment, they had 6 chimps, right? Or 8 chimps, sorry. Eight, or they had 8 there in a room with a ladder that led up to bananas. Now this ladder was electrocuted, right? Or electrified. So every time you try to climb, you get a shock down. So every time they try to do it, they get shock brought on. They removed 4 of the chimps, and they brought 4 new ones that had no experience with this. And so anytime now that 4 new ones tried to go towards the ladder, the 4 old ones would get mad, loud, like throw them away from it, beat them up, to be like, you don't go there, it's too dangerous.
Right, yeah, lesson.
Then they would remove the 4 from the original group, the last 4 from there, and put in 4 new ones. So now all you had are people who didn't, or the chimps that never actually got to touch it, but got beat up for even thinking it, and those that didn't even see it happen now. Those that new ones that came and tried to go there, and the ones that never actually touched it but got beat up for going there, they start beating up those ones and being mad, but like you stay away because the fear is so high, right? That's how we do it. So it's so removed from where it even initially started that people don't even understand why they're mad anymore. They don't even understand what race looks like truly anymore and what their struggle really is, because they're beaten into a place of submission and fear to believe an old lie that wasn't true at the beginning. You know, it's a diabolical. Yeah, I would be in awe of this genius if it wasn't so diabolical and how that, you know, they go around, because the real people are dying. Real people are hurting for them to have this power. Real groups and swaths of people are hurting for them to have this power. And a lot of them are walking, or lemmings walking over the cliff to be next in line. Yay! You know,
I'm about to play this. I'm about to play this clip, and then I want your opinion on the segment.
Sounds good.
Communities.
So okay, so define do for self.
When I say do for self, you shared one of my tweets, my videos, and I was actually a big fan of yours, but you shared one of my tweets when I said Black people need to stop begging the government and go and do for self out in our communities. You shared the video and called me an idiot. I didn't see anything idiotic about that statement at all.
So when you say do for self, like what? Explain that.
Okay. For example, here in Albany, Georgia, we complain about our school systems a lot. Many of our young men can't read. They have very horrible literacy rates. We don't have any rehab programs here for juvenile offenders. What I decided to do, I started a program 2 years ago, decided to do for self, and I started taking children into my home. I started taking custody of kids from juvenile court, and I started molding them and training them and teaching them skilled trades, etc. Now I'm 21 years old. I just purchased a school here in Albany, Georgia, to combat us being in the government-funded schools that are not teaching our children what they need to learn. So that's what I mean by do for self, simply getting up and going out and do it.
So
I beat the stereotype that I'm young, Black in America, and I can't do anything because somebody's holding me down. Absolutely not.
So a question.
Teenagers went and go ahead. Me and some teenagers went and bought a school, and we just bought a school bus simply from going out and doing work. We decided to go fix our own communities. I'm not expecting anything from no politician. I'm not expecting nothing from Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or nobody. We're gonna go do it for ourselves. And that's what I believe we need to be doing. I can vote, sure, but nothing's going to change in our community.
So you went to,
you know, I mean,
that's my guy, King Randall, dog. That's my guy.
Hey, everybody is going to your, everybody's trying to get involved.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'll be honest with you, when I saw that clip, so you by the way, check it out on my page, Americano. King Randall and I actually did an interview about 2 weeks ago about right after that video came out and his point of view. And I've talked to him before. He's a great young man, 21 years old, started it at 18, 19 and was like, I'm going to change the world, or I'm going to change my world. That's really what he did. He stayed strong. And I met him at the Blexit rally in DC to back the blue. And that was Trump's first speech after coronavirus. So to sit there and see these guys, and I just went up and talked to them because it just looked interesting. I was like, hey, what are you guys doing? You know, what are you about? And he started breaking it down. And much like we were mentioning before you played the clip, Roland Emmerich and a lot of these individuals, those are the ones that make white liberals feel comfortable because they're used as the attack dogs. Now, you listen to that interview and watching it, he looks so confused at everything like this. You're missing, like King Randall was missing something as he was succeeding in real time and explaining how the success worked. And my experience too, to always try to like, no, it has to be this story. And it's like, he's 21, he just bought a school and a school bus. You tell me.
He's like, that doesn't matter. You didn't do it the way that we couldn't do it. So the fact that we couldn't do it and we had to use the government through fraternities and go through this brutal process of initiation, and now you holding this carrot over our head saying, well, if you didn't get it through us, then you wouldn't have got it. Instead of going that route, wanted to do for itself.
And that is like saying it's not real, right? So, but the other side, I think too, when we mentioned earlier, they're so used to fighting in that battle and so used to just assuming that they're right that a lot of times, even watching that video, he couldn't hear self-sufficiency because culturally that's not what's given out. And I'll say this here, and I'll say it anywhere and everywhere. What Black culture has become since the late 60s is a losing culture here in America. We've moved away completely, or not completely, for a huge swath away from the American ideals to believe in one of socialism and communism. And anyone can scream at me all the time, all they want, call me all the names, but show me the success rate, show me the win and loss. And I'll show you that we've been allowing ourselves to lose of our own volition in these last 20, 30 years more than anyone else could do to us. So we got to stop losing, meaning we got to stop thinking like losers. No, you're a winner, go get it. You're a winner, go do it. You're a winner and you want to have it. Let's see what it looks like. Build. We don't have any foundations. We don't own shit. And they complain when people come into Harlem as gentrification. Like, what? Pool your money together like they did after slavery. Like many of those slaves that created towns and economies, and their families did this. Like, so it's possible from a place of nothing completely. And in this world where money's being given out, so homeless people have cell phones, and you can have a production on your phone as we're doing right now. You can't tell. You can't. If slaves can do it and they couldn't read, we can do it today. And a lot of us don't read. So, that's.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming, and I mean,
brother.
It's so true. We still have an ethnic group called the Gullah Geechee. They're descendants of slaves that had bought their property after they had worked it off. And as far as a family bloodline, they knew because they were still connected to the African roots, foundationally, how to own your own things, from your family to your property to your land. They bought up it was basically the group that quote unquote kicked out the whites, if you want to use that word. It was so many of them. It was about 80% black, and they created their own language with about at least 25 different African dialects within their language with the Caribbeans. So they are the descendants of slaves. They're the ones who created the okra and the ham hog and the pig and all these things that was turned good in the slave traditions and pushed to the South. They're the people who made that. But it's very positive to have you on, and it's crazy how you need to get back to the builder culture that we are as a people, instead of emotional woke stuff, the emotional this and the emotional that.
You're right.
In the fire. Like, I'm ready to do these community gardens. I'm ready to teach kids changing oil. I'm ready to teach them to put one kid to the side and let's jumpstart his own business. I'm ready.
Exactly.
I'm ready. So
exactly. That's what we need, man. We had, like they say, teach one, reach one, right?
Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna get in contact with you. We are gonna do community wise. We're gonna figure something out.
I'm down.
Connections together. You put yours together, but hey, we're gonna figure something out.
Yes, sir. It's been a pleasure as always, brother.
All right. Peace.
Enjoy your Thursday.
All right. Same to you.
Later.